Welcome back, Brosips. So now we're going to get into a very basic example, I think, of where Python is better than Excel. And you're like, oh, how can it really be better? What's your, value criteria or criteria for judgment? Well, I'm going to show you one fucking example where I think Python kicks the hell out of Excel's ass. And I want to bring this up front for people who are new to Python so that you can kind of understand, like, right off the bat, where would I use this versus, where would I use Python versus where would I use Excel? Like, give me an example before I start learning this to explain to me why the fuck I should actually learn it, other than, of course, to put it on my resume and try to get a better job, make more money. Like, we're all trying to do that, no duh. But a practical example, let's walk through one. So I created a very simple little, you call it table, whatever. I've got values in column D, A, B, C, and D. And then in E, the numbers 1, 10, 100, 1,000. Now, if I were to ask you in Excel, okay, give me back every value from column D where the value in column E is greater than 100, you would have, I would think, a slightly tough time doing that because I'm asking you to give me one-to-many values back. Like, depending on the value of E, return multiple cells, or return multiple values back to me in one-to-many cells. So we had talked about in the last tutorial how Excel makes things very easy if you're doing something where you're returning or putting data into one cell, right? Like, I can just print some stuff, I can just type things, Excel says that's text, I give it a number, I make it a formula if I want it to be this, plus, what am I doing? I can say the cell above me, plus, and then I'll say, let's say, can we try to make plus the string? Nope, that doesn't work, but I can say, this and space and this, so basically, like, that was kind of stupid, but the point being, you can do these operations in single cells pretty easily. But if I want to return values for multiple cells, now all of a sudden I kind of have a conundrum, and this is where those of you who use Excel, you'll know you'll use array formulas, right? And we won't get into how array formulas work, but just know that, like, we're kind of moving into, I just want to point out, if I haven't hammered it enough, we're moving into an area that Excel doesn't do well. So let's go over to Python, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you how we would do this in Python. So give me back every row here, every key and value. Give me the value from column D and the value from column E where the value in column E is greater than 10. So I'm going to create an object here called a dictionary, and I'm going to title it myDict. You don't need to know what that is. Just watch what I'm doing. So I've created the same table, or I'm creating the same table as this Python dictionary, which is something you don't know, but you know what, don't care about yet. Just see if it's easier to work with than the question I'm asking you to answer in Excel. Give me back every row where the value in column E is greater than 10. So I've got this thing here in Excel, and now in Excel I can do this really simply. I can say for KV in myDict, and that K and V is completely arbitrary. I could have said for Homer Simpson in myDict, doesn't matter. It's just semantics, but don't worry about it for now. I'll now use an if statement, and I'll say if V is greater than 10, print KB, and I'll hit enter again. Oh, need more than one value to unpack. So I just got an error because I was being sloppy, and I did this a little too quickly. So there's this property for a dictionary called items, which is saying that there are things within the dictionary just like there are values within a cell. So I have to say specifically in Python, I want the values, or in this case, the items in this object. Whereas in Excel, we kind of assume if you say A2, I mean the values of A2. Although that's not totally true, right? Because we know that there are more things in Excel, because not only does this cell, in this case E4, have a value of 1,000, but I can give it like a property. I can say we'll make it bold, right? And so now when I reference cell E4 in a formula, if I say equals E4, Excel treats that just as a value, but it didn't return the formatting. It didn't return the bold formatting. So we kind of already intuitively understand that Excel will treat the cell as a value, but there are also other things that can be assigned to it that you'll have to explicitly reference. Like in this case, bold formatting. So I'll have to say I want the formatting. So likewise here in Python, I have to say I want the items. And I hope that is relatively clear and that my error was kind of illustrative. So now I'm going to go back to my if statement if the value is greater than 10, and I want to print the key and the value. And in this case, very quickly I get back I get my row C100, D1000. And it's pretty flexible. So again, you can do an array formula, or maybe you'd have some way of doing this with a pivot table in Excel, and you'd be like, oh, it still beats the hell out of it. But I hope from a quick and dirty standpoint, you see, hey, I just wrote 3 lines of code for K and V in this object dot items. If the value, so K and V, by the way, was for key and value. So if the key in this case was column D, the A, B, C, or D, and the value was what was in column E, the number 1, 10, 100, 1000. If that number was greater than 10, give me this whole thing back. Python does this shit super easy. Whereas in Excel, it's like I have to do this as an array formula. I have to drag down some number of cells. It gets more complicated. So, like, I hope this serves just as if you're sitting here saying, like, why the fuck should I learn this? I know I might need it to make more money or so that I can pretend like I'm a data scientist. But if you wanted a practical reason, like, why the fuck would I actually want to use it? Here's one. When you want to return some unknown number of cells, a programming language like Python can be really helpful. And you're like, oh, well, my data's in Excel. I need to get it into this dictionary that you're using. Like, what the fuck? Why is it called a dictionary? Blah, blah, blah. We'll get into all of that. Python will make it easy to read in data as a dictionary. We'll show you that. But just know, hey, if I want to return some unknown number of rows of data based on a condition or many conditions, right? You can imagine how quickly things can get complicated in Excel. If I said, oh, we'll give it back. I want it back if it's greater than 10, but not if the key is D. I could start adding things in. You add more data, I could add more conditions. Python will allow you to make this pretty flexible. I can just continue to add these if statements. Whereas in Excel, now I got all these nested ifs in my array formula, Control-Shift-Enter, all that bullshit. Like, it gets ugly. So I hope this serves as a little example so you have a practical reason for why you might want to use Python if you're manipulating data in Excel. And we will keep diving further. And I think the next tutorial we'll get into actually reading data into Python that's either from Excel or from a CSV file that Excel users are used to reading. And we'll take it from there. So thanks again for checking in.